Good evening, YouTube. You guys are now watching the Allergy Effect. I'm just playing with you guys. Today we're going to be talking about Yu-Gi-Oh logic, and for Yu-Gi-Oh logic, we're going to be talking about the Holy Trinity: Solemn Warning, Compulsory Evacuation Device, and Bottomless Trap Hole. Let me move it a little more down so you guys can get a better look at that. But these cards are considered the Holy Trinity. Now, why are these cards considered the Holy Trinity? Because, well, first of all, they're limited to one, so they kind of make a nice trinity. And secondly, when you are including one of these cards into your deck, you're typically going to include the other two, and this is the logic why. First of all, this actual whole video is derived from Pojo, where somebody was asking if it was wise to play Solemn Warning or not to play Solemn Warning. A lot of Pojoers' logic behind not running Solemn Warning is late game it's dead if you have under 2,000 life points, I guess. It can be MST'd. Bottomless is better. My other traps are better. Or just plainly they didn't want to mention it. It's too meta. I'm a hipster. So we're going to break through all of those logics and just get to the sheer gist of why Solemn Warning is undisputedly the best trap card unbanned in this game. At the cost of 2,000 life points, when a monster would be summoned through a spell, trap, or monster effect, that card is negated. When a card is normal summoned or special summoned, it doesn't matter. It's negated. Or actually, I'm sorry, if it's flip summoned too. If it's summoned, the card is negated and destroyed. Why is this card so good? Well, it has a couple of attributes that a lot of trap cards don't have that are very competitive in this game. Solemn Warning, and I guess, is the only. Oh, well, except for Seven Tools of the Bandit. Seven Tools of the Bandit is amazing too. Solemn Warning is the only trap card that is competitive right now. It is the only counter trap card that is competitive besides Seven Tools of the Bandit. All the other ones, either I'm just gonna put them in the underrated category because I know how you guys are sometimes. You like, dude, my counter is amazing, and I ain't trying to argue with you guys this time. But Solemn Warning is the best card, trap card, because it is a counter trap card. There's not a lot of cards that can counter a counter trap card. The only other one being Seven Tools. But Seven Tools is great because Solemn Warning exists. Because if Solemn Warning didn't exist, Seven Tools wouldn't be great. You just use Trap Ton. You wouldn't have to pay the 1,000. Duh. Another thing is that your opponent has to preemptively. Solemn Warning is the reason why your opponent preemptively activates Trap Stun. Solemn Warning almost has that Heavy Storm effect, where if your opponent does have multiple cards in their hand, they only set 2 in fear of Heavy Storm. Solemn Warning almost has that effect with Trap Stun. That's why everybody preemptively activates Trap Stun. Another thing is just, it's so good. It's so good. The next thing I guess I want to talk about through their logic is that MST stops Solemn Warning. No shit. It's a trap card. I mean, that's really all I have to say for it. MST will stop Solemn Warning just as much as MST will stop Bottomless. Doesn't make sense. I mean, it's just it. It's part. I mean, yes, it's a trap card. It's susceptible to background destruction. That's it. There's nothing else more to it. I guess the next argument is that in late game, Solemn Warning doesn't work. Well, another thing is that if in late game you are under 2,000 life points, probably doesn't matter if Bottomless, Compulse, Deprison, Mirror Forces face down. Your opponent is probably winning the game drastically, and they're going to find a way to get over those cards. It doesn't really matter. Now, if you guys are both down to a little amount of life points and you top deck that Solemn Warning, hey, that's pretty bad. But it is the price to pay to negate a summon of a card. You are essentially taking away the momentum from your opponent. You are capturing that opponent's whole turn. When you Solemn Warning an opponent's monster, because summoning monsters is the way how you win this game now, you are taking away your opponent's whole turn practically. Especially when you can use it to stop the summon of a pivotal monster like Judgment Dragon, like Excision Knight, like Blackluster Soldier. If you can stop those cards with Solemn Warning and you know your opponent doesn't have another out to it or another way to summon it, which like I said would be a pivotal play, then you necessarily win the game because Solemn Warning. it's a blanket. It's just too powerful. It's too powerful to ignore. Like I said, there's only a couple reasons why you should not run Solomorning. If you're running a deck that runs no back row, that's one of them. If you main board decrees, I mean, it'd be kind of useless to draw those 3 decrees and then that solemn. That's not so hot. The next thing is if you like taking a lot of loads and loads of life points. If your deck says pay 7,000 life points at the beginning of your game, Solemn Warning might not be the card for you. Just maybe not. Because if you pay that 7,000, you won't be able to use Solemn Warning. The last one is if you like to lose. I mean, people that like to be hipsters and lose because they think Solemn Warning is overrated. No, Solemn Warning is exactly where it's at. It's the best trap card in the game. It's just like that. It's simple. The next thing we're going to be talking about is Compulsory Evacuation Device. While this card has not been criticized like Solemn Warning, people forget that returning a card to the hand is so versatile. It just, that simple line of text that I've always told you players, all of my YouTubers, when the card has 1 or 2 lines of text, it's typically a really, really good card. To be able to bounce your own monsters, bounce your opponent's monsters, bounce synchros, bounce exceeds, bounce just about anything. All those problematic cards. Compulsory Evacuation Device is at 1 for a reason. These 3 cards are at 1 for a reason. They're extremely good, and in multiples, they're very annoying and hard to counter. Compulsory Evacuation Device more than likely is a -1. I mean, if you're bouncing your own monster, you're losing something. But you also have to remember why you're bouncing your own monster. Maybe your opponent is dark holing your Judgment Dragon and you want to bring it back to your hand. I don't know why you're running traps in Lightsworn, but sure. Maybe you're going for a play and your opponent depositions you and you need that card back to your hand. So it's technically not a neg-1 if you're compulsing your monster back to your hand. But then at the end of the day, you got to remember you're losing monster presence. Another thing about Compulsory Evacuation Device is that it permanently gets rid of exceeds and synchros. It's not like the monster's going back to your opponent's hands to be summoned again. It is permanently getting rid of this card. So you're not going to see that threat again. If your opponent negs 2 for a Stardust Dragon and you Compulsory Evacuation Device it, provided that they didn't use Stardust Effect, they pretty much went in the hole by 3 points. So Compulsory is an extremely good card. It doesn't fit to the same standard as Solemn Warning at times, but like I said, more often than not, if you're running traps that like to defend yourself or traps that actually do a meaning, then these 3 cards are the Trinity. These are the cards that more than likely should be in your deck. Next is Bottomless Trap Hole, and I know my voice changed, my allergies are going through. Bottomless Trap Hole is an extreme card. When your opponent summons a monster with 1500 or more attack, destroy that monster with 1500 or more attack. And if you do, banish it instead of sending it to the graveyard. That is a lot of text. Bottomless Trap Hole has received a lot of criticism lately, mainly because of Constellar Omega, Excision Knight, cards that are just being immune to destruction. But people need to realize that Bottomless Trap Hole will rightfully sit as one of the top 5. It will never be under that 5 in no circumstance, unless everybody starts playing Raccoons. Then Bottomless will forever be one of the best trap cards in the game. There was a time where Bottomless was the best trap card in the game. So being able to remove a monster with 1500 or more attack, typically that's a monster that's going to take a chunk out of your life points or do something damaging. Most, if not all, of the boss monsters are over 1500 attack. Bottomless is amazing at that. But a lot of things, like I've said, people like to compare Bottomless to Solemn Warning, Bottomless to Solemn Warning. It's not Solemn Warning. It can't stop Constellar Omega. It can't stop Evil Swarm Ophion with Pandemic in hand. It can't stop Excision Knight. It can't stop those certain cards. But it definitely does get rid of that threat. So it's definitely a level below the Solemn Warning. But it still is an amazing card to play. And like I said again, I'll say it again, I'll say it again. If you're running one of these cards, make room for the other 2. Because they all go hand in hand together so well. This is going to be your main deck boss monster, pivotal killer. This is going to be your Synchro XE killer. And this is just going to say F whatever your opponent does. It really does. These 3 cards are actually the best 3 trap cards in the game. And like I keep telling you people, they're limited to 1 for a reason. Thank you guys for watching another segment of the Cali Effect. Please like, comment, subscribe, and most of all, you guys got to get some allergy pills for me, man. I hate this. And I got practice today.